I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I don't know who this man is. I mean, he could be walking down the street. I wouldn't know a thing. Sorry to this man.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about recording artist Neil Young attempting to give the audio streaming platform Spotify an ultimatum, but ultimately he failed in a pretty dramatic and embarrassing way. But before I get into it, let's back up a little bit here to explain what's going on, just so we're on the same page with each other. Now, apparently Neil Young does not like Joe Rogan or the Joe Rogan podcast. And the reason why is because Joe Rogan is very big, number one, probably the biggest podcaster in the world. If not, he's right there at the very top, probably the top 1 or 2 or 3 guys in the world that do podcasts. Okay. Joe Rogan is immensely popular. Whenever he goes to do the UFC events and he's talking to the athletes, they're probably more excited to meet him than they are about winning their own fight. He's extremely popular all over the world, very well loved. That's Joe Rogan. And apparently Neil Young does not like the fact that he's so big and he's able to spread quote unquote misinformation about the bug. That's not me saying that. That's Neil Young saying that. So he does not like that. He thinks it's dangerous and it's irresponsible for Spotify to have this guy on their platform. So he said this: either he goes or I go. So you know what Spotify did, right? It's like, all right, Neil, well, so sad to see you go, but it's time to be out of here. So they took Neil Young's music off the platform and they kept Joe Rogan. Okay, so that did not go very well. And really, I'm not really sure why Neil Young would do that. I don't really get it. This ain't 1975. You don't have any leverage here, sir. It's 2022. Most people that listen to Joe Rogan have no idea who a Neil Young is. No idea. And quite frankly, I'm 37. I don't know who that man is, really. I've heard his name before, obviously. But if you put a pistol to my head and say, hey, ABL, I need you to sing 3 Neil Young songs from front to back without skipping the stuttering, I'm going to get shot right there on the spot, okay? So I just don't know much about the guy. I had to get told about his song, Rockin' in the Free World. I was like, really, that's his song? That's pretty ironic. It's like Rage Against the Machine, Zach De La Rocha, the whole squad, talking about how they're anti-establishment, they're raging against the machine, but you got to get a vax and bring the card to the concert. Ridiculous, typical Hollywood, corny, fake nonsense, but that's a different story, and I digress. The whole point is that Spotify picked Joe Rogan over Neil Young. And like I said, he had no leverage at all. People don't know who he is, and I don't believe he even owns the music. I think he probably sold that catalog to somebody. So he was just, he sent a letter out there just trying to basically cop pleas with Spotify to get Rogan out of there. So it's like, you don't have any leverage. You don't even own that music anyway, number one. Number two, people are not listening to Spotify for Neil Young. They're on Spotify listening to Joe Rogan, really. Okay. I have no incentive to purchase a Spotify subscription unless I want to hear the Joe Rogan podcast. Because remember, Rogan was on YouTube. The whole podcast would be on youtube.com. Okay. The video, audio, whatever, youtube.com. The audio may be on other platforms, maybe before Spotify, probably Apple, iTunes or whatever, but the video was on YouTube. But now all the new podcasts, as far as the video, are on Spotify. You're able to find clips on Joe Rogan's YouTube page, but the actual podcast is not there. So the deal that they gave Rogan to be on Spotify exclusively as far as a full podcast is probably in the network, in the area of $100 million or more. I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but I guarantee you that they want to protect Joe Rogan at all costs. All right. And to speak about what Joe Rogan says on his podcast, it's not anything that's bad. I mean, to a guy like Neil Young, he may be afraid of the bug. So if Joe Rogan says anything that's against what a guy like Anthony Fauci would say, which is kind of difficult to pinpoint how to be against Anthony Fauci, because one day Fauci will say, put your mask on. The next day he'll say, take it off. The next day he'll say, put 2 and 3 on, the next day they'll say it don't work. This guy's a flip-flopping like a fish out of the water. You understand what I'm saying? But anyway, if you don't say exactly what he thinks you should say that comes from the federales or television, then he's against you because he's afraid. He's probably 80-something years old, 70-something years old, scared out of his mind for no reason other than what the media have told him. That's why he wants to lash out at Joe Rogan. But what has Rogan said that's really wrong or incorrect? I mean, people can attack him for saying certain things because they're offended, they're mad or whatever, but disprove him. Rather than just trying to get him censored, how about you disprove him? That should be the way we go forward. This whole censoring thing, like I think the current Surgeon General requested or suggested that Rogan get censored. It's like, why? Why can't my ideas be out there? If what I'm saying is so wrong and it's so easily proven incorrect, then debunk me. Let's have a debate. Matter of fact, I know Rogan would be the kind of guy that would have on Surgeon General or even the Neil Young or anybody on the podcast. Come on. If you don't like what I'm saying, let's talk about it, have a civil conversation. That should be the way that it is. But you know, when the government gets really big like that, they don't really care about having these civil conversations. They don't really care about that. They're not really interested in having a dialogue. They're more interested in just trying to shut you down to keep you quiet. No more political dissent, no more medical dissent or whatever. All this stuff that should be just about you and your doctor and your personal life has now become political. It's become a political weapon that's bludgeoned against the quote unquote non-believers. And it shouldn't be that way. Not at all. Not in the least bit. And I think people like Neil Young are starting to realize that you can't do this thing you see on TV with everybody. Because if you see TV, you see the politicals trying to bully small businesses and whatnot. And by the way, that ain't working either because they just got struck down. The whole vax mandate for a private business, that got struck down. That the vax mandate, the mask mandate, that's all coming to an end. It's all coming to an end. It was a good run, about 2 years, but it's all coming to an end. People like Neil Young may not be able to see it or they may not be able to accept it. You see what I'm saying? Because sometimes you can have a thing going so well, or I don't want to say well, but you've become kind of bonded to this problem. You've become one with the problem to the point where you want to protect the problem when someone wants to fix it. Rogan is saying, okay, here's some doctors, medical doctors in the field. I bring them on the podcast and they'll talk. Robert Malone and etc. We'll talk about what's going on. And they give actual real information from their point of view. But guys like Neil Young, they don't really want to have, they don't want to have the problem be solved. They want to continue to just be where they are and feel like whatever they've been told by the government is right. But it's not right. You've been duped. You've been lied to. So it is what it is. You can't use your 1979 leverage in 2022 to try and get someone off the platform because you disagree. Okay? You still got a little bit of a face card, I suppose, Neil Young. I don't know who you are, really. Okay, like I said, you put a gun in my head and say, hey, can you recite the whole song, Rockin' in the Free World? I'm going to be a dead man. It is what it is. And I'm trying to live, so I ain't even trying to play that game. I tell you right now, I just don't know. Most people don't know. That's why Spotify went with Joe Rogan. It's like, look, man, people are on our platform because of Rogan. We spent all this money, all this time, and I think they're not an American company. That's something else. I think they're a Swedish company. So they're not really trying to play this American weird political game. Some American companies might want to play ball. They might play ball. And I think some of that is because of the federal government pressure. Now, that's a point I want to get to as I close. How much different are we than communist China when you have Surgeon General talking about censoring the podcast host, where tech companies are pressured to remove certain episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience? I saw Jack Posobiec said that there have been 48 episodes removed from Spotify. Now, how much of that is because of American pressure or international pressure? Now, and imagine if it was also on YouTube, what would happen then? It'd be probably a much more severe thing because you have congressional hearings about social media. You bring in guys from Google and Facebook to the Congress and they're getting berated and whatnot for what they're doing and what they're not doing. It's a crazy world. Now, social media, they can be very censor happy because of their own personal beliefs, but they also have the government chiming in to say what should get removed and what shouldn't be removed. That's kind of a dangerous area and a slippery slope in my humble opinion, but I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? How do you feel about Neil Young trying to flex his proverbial muscle on this whole issue of the Joe Rogan podcast? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys pretty much know where I'm at. I knew that wasn't going to work at all. That was doomed to fail from the very start, because who is Neil Young really? I don't know who this guy is. I don't know a lot about his music. That's just the reality of the situation. I'm not saying that he's not a good recording artist. I'm not saying he doesn't have any good music, but there's a generational thing here. Okay, Spotify listeners are not really going to be necessarily the baby boomers. You're talking about very young people younger than me, people old enough to be my kids, 18, 19-year-old kids. Okay, they're listening to Rogan and everybody else on the platform, not rocking in the free world. That's just the reality of the situation. So I think at the end of the day, money talks. People want what they want. They don't want this fake stuff coming from the mainstream media. They don't want these old guys trying to preach to them about what they think is right, what they think is wrong. They want to hear what they think makes the most sense. And then right now, a guy like Rogan is making more sense than a lot of these doctors working with the federales. And I'm not sure that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I think for me and other guys out there that are awake, it's a great thing. We realize that the government are not going to be, mommy and daddy. We're able to go out there and seek information and use our own brain and do our own research, just our own research, and follow some true science to figure out what's right and what's wrong, or at least what makes the most sense. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.